Welcome to the special meeting of the Murfreesboro Historic Zoning Commission. Sorry, I didn't.
Name's Joe Ornelas. I'm another planner, yeah. Okay. I'm filling in for Robert while he's on vacation this week.
Great. Can you, I guess we have a quorum and we're called to order. And the new business is regarding 208 North Manny Avenue. Could you brief us on that project?
Sure. This item on the agenda is for a remodel of an existing home located at 208 North Manny Avenue, which is about midway between East Lytle Street and East College Street. The house was constructed circa 1945 in the vernacular style of architecture with a gable roof and stone detailing. The house is a non-contributing structure of the North Manny Avenue Historic District of the National Register of Historic Places. The triplex to the south of this property is also a non-contributing structure, and the house to the north is not located in the East Main Street Historic District. The house was originally constructed as a single-family dwelling and was converted into a three-family dwelling in the early 1980s. The applicants are proposing to convert the house back into a single-family dwelling and remodel the interior and exterior of the house. This item was previously reviewed on October 20th and was deferred until a more detailed drawing could be submitted to the Commission for review. The applicant has submitted another drawing labeled revised drawing in your agenda packet and has also submitted a proposed door located in your agenda packet as well. The applicant has made changes to the front elevation of the house that were discussed at the previous meeting. Some of the changes to this house include the following: removing all existing aluminum siding and replacing it with hardy board siding, replacing all windows on the front of the house, remove the previously proposed awnings over the two windows on either side of the front door, adding columns and a portico to the front entrance, adding two dormers to the roof at the front of the house, replacing the existing roof shingles with architectural shingles, closing in the existing garage for an office, replacing the garage door with 3 windows and adding 3 windows to the left side of the garage, adding an attached garage behind the existing garage, which will not be visible from the street. They would also close in the breezeway and remodel it into a dining room and a bathroom. And they will be adding central heating and air conditioning where the HVAC unit will not be visible from the street. Also included in your agenda packet are photographs of the property and the adjacent properties, and there are samples of the colors and the materials that they will be using for the renovation. The applicants are in the audience, and they can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Could I guess have the applicants come to the podium and be available for questions from the Commission? Okay, say your name and address.
Jeff and Tamara Neely, 208 North Manny Avenue.
Okay, thanks. Commission members, any of you have any comments, questions on the proposed changes? We looked at this, I guess it's been 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
And had some thoughts about it, and it looks like you've made quite a few of the changes that we had suggested. It looks much improved drawing, I think, but we have some additional members here this week who may have some comments and ideas to share as well. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just reaffirm one point at this time. The 2 windows on the side of the front door, I mean, they're basically the same. Even though they're going to be replaced, they're basically the same as they are today.
Same size. We're just requesting to lower them. I think someone had made the comment that they were the same height as the door header. They are not. They're actually currently about 5¼ inches higher than the front door header, and I'm requesting to lower them down perfectly even with the front door header.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
because there's so many items here, I would recommend that we talk about each one individually and make motions on those because of the extent to which the house is being changed. I would also like to question the city attorney whether or not the fact that it was built in 1945, so now it's 50 years old and would be considered eligible for the National Register. And so it would no longer be, if evaluated again today, it would not be listed as non-contributing, it would be considered contributing.
But I guess that process has not taken place.
It's not
been evaluated. And so until it is, I guess, because it could be evaluated and it could be determined that it's still a non-contributing structure, right?
It's possible.
Even though it is,
Yeah.
mere age doesn't allow it to be registered, I don't think.
No, it doesn't, but depending on the alterations to it over the years, and it's 50 years of age, it may still be considered non-contributing. Being on the State Review Board, I believe it would be reevaluated as contributing, but it's a guess as to what would really happen. Yeah.
Unless that process is at least underway or has been completed, I don't think that we can alter the designation.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, let's take a look at each of the changes one at a time and talk about them.
Mr. Chair, as far as regarding the existing aluminum siding replacing with hardy board siding, I don't really personally have any concern about that. I think the aluminum siding or the vinyl siding that's there being removed would be just fine. I think you'll find you have more maintenance if it's got wood underneath it. There is some trim in the pediment over the door. Were you planning to leave that and just put where the siding is now, the new hardy plank?
It will be hardy plank replacing that aluminum siding. The entire house is aluminum siding and apparently was from the get-go. I thought originally it had been wrapped over wood. There's no wood underneath it. It is aluminum siding.
Okay.
So apparently it was put up originally in 45.
But do you intend to keep in the raking angles of the pediment over the door and the horizontal, that decorative wood trim, do you plan to keep that?
Well, it will be replaced with the hardy board and the Miratech corner board siding, but it will look like
Well, I guess
wood siding.
hardy board or any of those types of companies do not have step decorative trim. They have only flat boards.
Right.
And so for me, I would recommend that the decorative wood trim on the gable end of the house and then the bottom of the triangle, it's a decorative piece of wood trim. I would recommend you keep that.
That's what I was saying. I think we're talking same thing, different language. It will be a Miratech product that is combined with the hardy board, but it looks like a wood trim there.
But it will replicate.
Yeah, it will replicate what's there. It'll just all be new.
Would it have steps and curves in it and like it does currently? Or will it be a flat board?
It'll be a flat board.
See, I think that's the difference that I heard, is that if you're going from a cove decorative piece of trim, like a cornice piece of trim, which is at the edge of the gable roof on the raking angles, and you go to a flat board, it will change the look of it. And I think that would not be
Oh,
bad.
I see what you're saying. Well, I'll have to go back and look at the actual picture of the house. I know it's going up the rakes and along the side. I am planning on putting that back. That would be out of a poplar material that's applied over the Miratech board.
What I'm talking about is this angle piece of trim
Exactly.
here, and here.
Yeah.
That's going to stay?
Well, it will be replaced with new product, but yes, it is going to stay. It'll have the cove molding and everything on it.
I guess for me, without seeing what the substitution will look like, it's hard.
Excuse me, if the TV crew can put the picture up that's on the
laptop.
on the laptop up on the screen, please.
Frankly, on the front of your house, all the casing trim around your windows would look like flat boards. That's the only decorative piece of wood trim you really have on the house, and to replace it is to lose it.
It actually goes up on both the north and south
Does
side
it?
as well of the house. You don't see it from that front-facing picture, but it is there.
Yeah.
There it is.
That is correct, and I would hate to lose those decorative pieces of
I
trim?
intend to put something very similar to that back if I have to have Sledgecraft make it.
Mr. Chair, I'm sure there's other discussion here amongst the group, but as far as an architectural opinion of it, as long as he replicates the board very closely to it, I have no problem, and replaces that back, I have no problem substituting the aluminum siding with hardy plank.
Okay. Have you looked at this drawing? Are you looking at
Oh,
this
yes.
drawing as well?
Yes.
Okay. And I think there's a picture of a sample of the hardy board. Is that what that picture is?
I brought an actual sample in originally 2
Okay.
weeks ago, and I think somebody took a picture of that. But
What is the surface texture of the siding now, the aluminum? Is it?
it's flat.
It's
just
flat?
smooth, yeah.
Well, hardy board comes in a rusticated finish like that and a smooth, and I would recommend you go back with the smooth to maintain the effect.
That's fine by me, I don't care.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Had you all considered different styles of hardy plank or hardy board? Had you looked
No, I
at
think
texture
my
or
wife preferred the
smooth?
smooth anyway.
Pardon me?
I think my wife preferred the smooth.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
hadn't discussed it.
Yeah. Is it-
We're done on that.
All right. So the sample we got is textured, but that's
Correct.
it comes in both styles. so-
Exactly.
Okay. So then, talking about replacing the aluminum with hardy board, is there any other discussion on that topic?
Make a motion, we approve the hardy board?
With the stipulation that the trim,
That the trim be replicated to match the existing and the surface of the hardy board be flat, smooth.
Well, we have a motion and some discussion, I guess. Do we need to,
Would you like to adopt that as part of your motion, Mr. Becker?
Sure.
All right.
thank
So
you.
that's the motion.
So we have a motion and a second to replace the aluminum with the hardy board and the condition that it be the smooth surface and, Jim, could you help me out with the other?
That the new profile of the wood trim being replaced matches the existing as close as possible.
Any other discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I don't think Brenda heard the second.
I did.
Kurt. So the motion carries, and we'll go on to the next question about the revisions or the modifications.
The second item, Mr. Chair, is replacing all the windows in the front of the house and removing the proposed awnings. We're just not putting them on there is what you're saying. You proposed it before, but you're
Yes.
suggesting taking them off on either side of the front door. So what is the purpose of replacing the windows?
Rotted out.
They're rotted out?
Yeah.
They're wood
Well,
windows currently?
there's- The smaller kitchen window to the left is still wood. It's rotted. The two on either side of the front door have been replaced with vinyl inserts, but it still has the original wood casing around. If you're familiar with what a sash pack is called, where they just put new sashes in, there are vinyl sashes inside the old wood frame, and the wood frame is rotted out.
So in the kitchen, you're proposing replacing the existing wood sash and wood frame and putting in what product?
Vinyl,
Okay, a vinyl sash and a vinyl frame?
yes.
And then the existing vinyl windows, are you going to replace the sash and the frame, or just?
All new windows. And it's not just the front of the house, the entire house will have new windows, with the exception of the basement.
Yeah.
The basement windows are all vinyl currently, and I'm not planning on changing those.
Our purview is only the windows that we can see from the right-of-way, so we
Okay.
really have no control over what's
Okay.
in the
On the back.
rear.
All right.
I guess then the question is, for me, is twofold. You're replacing windows to match in kind, except that you're asking that the windows being 5 1/4 inches taller than the front door, that you want to lower them. That's probably an aesthetic reason for you, is that the case, to lower them? I mean,
Yes.
typically, windows are taller than the doors, typically, in an old house.
Well, I don't particularly care for it on
Yeah.
that, but
And then the question is about vinyl windows. The issue is we have a combination of wood and vinyl, and typically we don't allow vinyl windows in the district.
That's right. We had that problem with one in the 400 block of East College about a year ago, and we had to stop renovation on that so that they would go back to the wood windows because that's what was there. And like Jim said, we only can only give our opinions on what can be seen from the street side. But I think we have to be really careful about these vinyl windows when we haven't allowed other people to replace wood with vinyl.
Well, this issue came up at the first meeting, Mr. Thompson, and I specifically didn't want Jeff and Tamara coming back knowing that they wanted vinyl replacements and not having it not approved by vote, but at least by consensus of the previous board. And because they are currently vinyl, even though they're vinyl clad, the previous board pretty much gave the okay for the vinyl replacements, if I remember correctly.
I think that's what that's what we did, because we assumed since they already had vinyl, there was no reason to say that you had to go back with wood.
I wasn't here, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to revisit it because I didn't get minutes of this. I don't know. So I understand the wood windows in the kitchen are wood, and the front two windows on opposite side of the door are vinyl. What about the rest of the house? What are they?
The entire basement is vinyl. The windows on the right-hand side, lower floor, are vinyl. There's a wooden casement window up above the steps on the south side that is wood, but if you look at it, it's catty-cornered and rotted out, so.
But they're basically, what percentage would you say is vinyl now?
65%, maybe 60% on the whole house. But if you're
But on
looking
the
at the front
front.
part that you all take into consideration, then it's 80% is vinyl.
80% viewed from the right-of-way.
Yes.
I think, as I recall our conversation the other day, I don't remember that we were aware that it was just the sashes that were vinyl. I don't recall specifically, but
No, we weren't aware.
yeah, I think that so, I mean, have you all considered any other type of window or priced anything or looked at any other style of window?
I looked at the particular window that Mr. Becker put in his house, and to me, it's price prohibitive.
Oh, okay.
They wouldn't even give me a price over the phone on
Yeah.
a window to compare it. They just said it was in their upper end line.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I'll make the motion to approve. We did talk about this at our last meeting subject, and they also, if they didn't have the vinyl coming in, hadn't have 60 to 80%, this is something I think we could have further discussion, but since they do have 60 to 80%, I make the motion to approve the vinyl windows on the front.
Mr. Chair, as far as further discussion, I'm not sure my parliamentary, but it's supposed to come after the second, but what about the issue of dropping the front pairs of windows that 5 1/4 inches? To me, I wouldn't do it.
Let's ask the rest of the members.
That could be a separate topic. Might be just as easy to have that,
Yeah.
discuss that
Yeah,
separately.
Okay.
We could do that.
And go ahead and talk
Okay.
to approve or not the vinyl.
Okay.
Second, the vinyl.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to approve vinyl window replacements for the front elevation. Is that the motion?
Is your request for all the windows or just the front windows?
well, I'm replacing all the windows on the entire house,
Okay.
Make it all.
except for the basement windows, which are currently vinyl. I'm not touching those.
And the Historic Zoning Commission, we typically, as was mentioned earlier, we look at what is visible from the right-of-way. So the back of the house would not be visible. And so we would be mostly concerned with that from the front and on the sides. So we have a motion and a second to approve vinyl replacements for the existing windows and they would have the same sort of look that the existing windows have. And so is there any other discussion? No other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would go back then and address the issue of lowering the front pairs of windows, the 5 1/4 inches, so they align with the door. Personally, I don't think they should be lowered.
Because you're saying, Jim, that in houses of that age, they're always higher than the door?
Typically, windows are higher than doors.
Typically.
When you all looked at that, how did you come to the decision to?
We had a discussion in the prior meeting. I think maybe, David, you mentioned that the current windows were even with the door header height. And when I went back and measured it, they're actually about 5 1/4 inches higher.
I think, okay. Well, I think, and I may have mentioned it as well, as I look at the photograph, it appears that they are.
It
And that's
does, but-
that's an optical illusion, I think, that we all suffered from. And you know, looking at the front elevation of the house, and I've gone back and looked at it, it looks like a flat front, and the stonework actually sticks out,
It does.
what, 3 feet?
About 4 feet, actually.
4 feet?
3.5,
Yeah,
4
so
feet,
it really has a much different look in person than it does in the photograph.
Right.
And looking at it here on this photograph, it does appear that the door is the same height as the windows. And so I don't think that detracts from the appearance of the house. That is that the change may or may not add to the.
What I didn't particularly
Aesthetics.
care for is there's very little trim above the windows, if you look, and I was trying to get them down a little bit away from that gutter board, if you will.
Jim, could you articulate a little bit about what you're thinking?
I just think that we're changing the windows to vinyl throughout, and the windows opening size should remain the same of whatever's there now. And
The
I
opening
think
size is going to stay the same. All I'm requesting is to lower the whole thing down, putting the exact same size windows in.
Yeah,
Are you dropping in the sill 5 1/4 inches?
Yes,
yes.
yes.
It's the placement of the window and the size within the elevation that I think it shouldn't change. I think it should match the existing window opening size currently, but not be lowered. That's my professional opinion, that it should stay the same in the same location.
I think, when we discussed this last week, we talked a little bit about historic characteristics of properties. And for National Register properties, you want to retain, or for districts, you want to retain a feeling, association, some of those kinds of things. And I've forgotten a couple of the other words. Can you give me some more of the words for National Register eligibility, Jim?
Whether it's a particular person who's done a specific event, if it's indicative, if it's a remarkable example of architecture of its period and design in the city, if it's a movement within the area, development of a neighborhood or something like that. There's actually various ways in which it can be reviewed.
And so I think that's what we're thinking of when we talk about changing the nature of a building or the character of a building, the feeling. And so I understand what you're saying, Jim, about changing that. It was built, you think you said by the same builder built the house next door, is that correct?
That's correct. It was built, the one to the left that Bill Jakes lives in,
Yeah.
was built in like 23.
In what?
1923.
Oh, 23, so it was
Right. It was like
20
20-year
years.
separation.
20 years, okay. Are there any other houses in the neighborhood that you know of that are built by the same builder?
No, I don't. It was a family issue there.
Okay, okay. Anyone else have any thoughts about that?
I'm okay either way. It doesn't really matter.
I'm fine. I would make a motion that we accept moving the windows 6 inches.
Okay. Or 5, did you say?
Yeah.
Let's move them to 6.
Okay, we'll go with that.
So we have a motion to approve the lowering of the 2 front windows, and I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
The only other discussion I would say, and I understand where Jim's at architecturally, but once that extension goes out, the extension of the porch that they're going to
Be requesting next.
We haven't voted on that
I
yet.
know, but I'm just saying, if it's approved, I think it's going to sort of camouflage that height.
Yes, Deborah?
The remainder of the house, are all the windows down the same amount all the way around,
All the way
creating a
around, yes.
datum? So are they already the 6 inches lower, and it's just these front 2 that are a
No,
little high?
they're along the back of the house and the front. As your gable comes down, all the back windows, which don't matter to you all, are the same height as the front ones. I'm going to lower those down as well.
Okay, so you're going to create a datum and lower them
Just
all?
make
Right.
it uniform.
The ones on the open ends of the gables, you don't see that height difference because you're on a flat panel of wall there.
Well, then we need to talk about the elevations you can see from the right-of-way, which is the right side, which you will be lowering, and that's the same issue.
It's that datum, yeah.
Is that correct? On the right side of the house, that, it seems to me you were going to eliminate one of those windows. Is that,
Just the one that's going to be in the area that's going to become our master bedroom, which would be the right rear window.
on the right side of the house as you,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So then there won't be anything?
No.
So it'll be
No.
gone?
Correct.
That's in this picture right here?
That, yes, that window right there that your finger's on
Under
is
the
going away.
staircase?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so that window would be, that would be closed in,
Correct.
is what you're saying? And this other smaller window,
There's actually 2 there. There's one on either side of the fireplace. The bushes are blocking
Oh,
it from
okay.
the view there, but they're 2 identical windows. They're staying.
they would stay as they are?
Yeah.
And is it true then of the bay windows?
Yes.
They would stay, the bay
They'll
windows
stay.
would stay where they are. So that covers all of those
Yes.
windows that are visible from the street,
Other than the triple that I'm adding on the front of the garage.
the
Right.
dormers, yeah.
On the
Okay.
garage.
Actually, the garage.
Oh, the garage, I'm sorry.
Right.
But we're saying they're all going to be dropped 6 inches.
Well, the garage doesn't have windows.
Oh, I understand, but I'm saying the existing
Oh,
windows.
okay. I misunderstood that then. I thought you said that the sides were going to stay the same.
The sides are.
Yeah, the sides are staying the same. The front is the only ones
Correct.
that are coming down.
The 2 pairs, one on either side of the front door, the 2 that you're proposing dropping 6
Right.
inches.
That and
That's
the
the
kitchen,
only
the
2.
kitchen window as well. The little shorter windows that are above the kitchen there that are on the front of the house.
So really, the front windows only, you're dropping 6 inches?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure we're all aware of what we're doing.
Okay. So, go ahead, Deborah. Sorry.
So, well, I'm just trying to understand. To me, it makes sense if you drop them all and you have a datum, I can sort of compromise, okay? Because then you have a datum all the way around. But if you leave some up and some down, you
Well, the
say,
new-
the new
ones that I'm
all up
putting in-
or all down?
They're all going to be lowered.
Okay, all lowered.
Yes.
I have to ask again. My understanding was just the front, not all, just the front are being
You
lowered.
really, like you say, don't have purview for the rest, but just
But we do on the
architecturally,
sides.
you sort of want them to.
We do on the sides. And-
Line up, or that's the way I was.
We can't review what we can't see from the right-of-way, but the 2 sides you can see. The bay window, that's this window you should be able to see,
yeah.
and at least the far left one, and then the one that's on the angle, and then the ones along the side by the stairs. So if they're all going to be lowered, you can see from the right-of-way. I just want everybody to know what you're voting on. They'll be dropped 6 inches. Is that correct?
That one's going to be 6. Yes.
On the right side, the double sash windows are going to be enclosed. That's going to be a wall. The 2 smaller windows on the sides of the fireplace are staying exactly where they are, correct?
Well, they can, or I can lower them down too, if it
want
makes a
them
difference.
lowered.
If you want them lowered all the way around.
I'm
I can.
just, no, I'm just trying to understand what you said, because your question
Yeah.
confused me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
We'll keep them higher or we'll lower them.
Okay.
We were going to keep them exactly as they were. Because they're not really, across the front.
don't
That's
see
the only,
them.
you don't see them from, one's behind a bush.
What I'm trying to gain, if I didn't make myself clear, if you look at the drawing, I'm just trying to get a little more room between the bottom of the gutters and the top of the windows.
is there some sort of advantage to that?
Aesthetics, I think it looks better. That's my personal
Okay,
opinion.
so it's not a structural advantage or a
Maintenance.
rotting advantage or anything like that, so, okay. So you have an issue with the architect of that building?
See, I happen to think it's a great example, period.
Well, I happen to think if you drive by and look at the house right now, there's absolutely nothing appealing about it. If you look at the house as it is, it's
Well,
ugly.
But it's a modern opinion on a house. To me, it's a great example of its period. When I wasn't born yet, thank God,
Okay.
but it is a good example of its period.
As was mentioned in the description, it's a vernacular sample of vernacular architecture which fits that time period. It and of course, those of us who grew up in the 50s and 60s and 70s maybe don't necessarily like all of that architecture, but there's a huge trend, of people who are really loving it, and there are journals about it and everything.
I think he's
it's-
talking about the structure itself.
Yeah.
He's basically coming in.
Yeah.
He's not talking about specifically that he didn't care for the house.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that might be driving Jeff's vision of this is if you look at the Jake's house, which was built in 1923, it sure looks like those windows are certainly down from the gutter and look pretty close to the same size as same height as the front door. So, I'm pretty much with Kirk. I can go either way.
Do we have a motion?
Yes.
Yes, we already have a motion.
Okay. We have the motion to approve the lowering of the windows on the front of the house.
And officially, we have a second, right?
And we've had a lot of discussion.
All right, I'm
So, is all in favor of the motion to lower the windows on the front of the house, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No. And the motion carries. Next item.
The next item is adding columns and a portico to the front entrance.
Any comments on that? What are your thoughts on that?
We're trying to make something so that if you come up to the front of the house, which is currently just flat, up and down, so that you're not standing there in the rain, if it happens to be raining, snowing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It just gives you a little shelter from the weather.
Could you describe the construction?
Well, the roof, I was planning on, the roof line will extend out 3 foot over the front of the porch, supported by the columns. It will actually be open in the center. I think I had brought a picture of an existing house in Georgetown.
Yep.
From the, yes, that is what it, no, that's a picture of the door, I think.
Okay.
We had a
Yeah,
picture.
that says front door. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you happen to have that
I don't
picture
have
with
that.
you?
No, they had
The new
approved.
packet that came out,
See,
it's
I
in there.
I mean, I don't have
No,
we don't
that's next
have
door.
that.
I don't think it got put into this packet.
detail to vote on.
It was in the previous
Yes.
meeting, there was a picture of a house that we designed the portico off of a house in Georgetown. Yes,
Yes.
that is what it
From
will
last-
look like.
It will
This
be
is from the
open.
notes from last meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
Show it to Jim.
Here it is.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Is it fair to say that you're going to duplicate that exactly?
No, if you look at the top of the columns there, they're much fancier. I'm planning on using If I can approach just a minute, I've got a copy of the actual columns.
What are the columns made out of?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I brought up the issue of fiberglass in the last meeting.
Yes.
I didn't have, I wasn't able to generate much discussion, but I did remember that there is a problem with cracking over the years with fiberglass, and there are other materials that can be used. And that was one problem. And my other problem was just the columns themselves. And I don't see columns with this style house. And so I have a problem with that, with, making it into a colonial-looking house, or something more formal, I guess. More formal, that's a good word to use. Deborah, do you have any comments about that? Any thoughts about that?
Well, what you're doing is, well, it is a vernacular, which means it's a local style. It's not truly a classical interpretation, and with columns especially, at least you chose Ionic, but even at that, that's not the way the house was born. That wasn't what it was meant to be. So that's where it's a little confusing, because some people say colonial, some people will say Georgian, or I say classical. You're trying to turn it into, from that kind of mixture of a local interpretation of that mid-century, where they were going through that evolution of changing the form and volume and type of house. That's why it's got that flat front, because it is indicative of its time period. And when you start putting those colonial or Ionic columns on there and treating it with classic front, you're really trying to say that the house isn't the way it was born anymore. And that's kind of where we're having the problem with, when we change and move things. Updating the materials is one thing, because you got to maintain your house. But changing the actual intent of the style or purpose, and a lot of times we don't realize that, but that's what's happening. I mean, it's a lovely, thought. It's just that that's not the way the architects in 1945 thought. And that's where we're having the little problem. If you wanted a little Greek temple house, we could do it. That's different.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I said if you wanted more of like a little Greek temple, a little, classical or, different kind of Greek revival, that would look differently. And that's what these little columns are trying to represent. It's a different look based on style. That's what I'm trying to explain. That's why we're having a little problem, because it's changing the original intent of how the house was kind of created or born of its time.
Right. Initially, we had put the canopy over the front door, and then we took it off thinking, okay, we'll put them over the windows. But you didn't like them over the windows, so we took them completely off the windows. And is there anything at all that you would accept to go over so that people are not pouring?
That's where the balance is.
Right,
the
exactly.
Practicality versus the style and the intent.
Right.
I understand. I have a building at MTSU, no front, we get poured on all the time.
Right.
But it's a mid-century modern, and she's got a glass front, and we'll never change her.
Got it.
But I think that's where I'm just trying to explain why we're thinking of things. We're having a little issue. I would have to think a little bit. I don't think the Ionic column route might not be the way to go, but I understand the problem, that you're trying to have a little protection there.
Well, I guess that's my question. I saw several options that I could have gone with.
Okay.
There were somewhere either you put some type of a canopy on the front of it, but I didn't think that was maybe where you wanted to go. There is something where there's a small gable, and there are what do you call them underneath? Corbels underneath the sides on each side, so you take away those two columns. I'm happy to do that. We were just trying to think of what seemed consistent and what seemed to get away from those canopies that you didn't want. So I was trying to take everything that appeared to be some type of the look even of a canopy away. But I don't have a problem at all doing something if you'd rather have like the corbels. But that's, I prefer the columns, but.
Speaking architecturally, I think it should be left alone. You're not showing the railings that are on the side of the stoop there.
The railings are going back in, I just didn't draw them.
Yeah.
Everything's exactly like it.
I get your problem that you want something to be under when it rains. The problem is the house just wasn't designed that way, and I think to tart it up with a detail that never existed and try to make it look fancier than it ever was is, from a preservation standpoint, is a mistake. And I would personally vote against it.
Is there, I guess that was my question, is there a way to go back with any type of a compromise and get any type of a covering with corbels on the sides or anything that took away from the columns and the Greek?
One thing about, well, again, what we're trying to do is retain the historic character of the historic district. That's our charge.
Right.
And so when you alter a building dramatically, that takes away that historic character. But one thing that we have approved on some houses is a canopy over a front door, which is a feature that can be easily removed.
Right.
A canvas awning, to me, would be the lesser of all the things because it's not something that permanently changes it. I hate to tell you, canvas you have to replace about every 7 years because it just rots and it gets mildew and mold and you have to clean it and it just rots and something hits it and it's damaged. So it's like painting. You have to renew it every once in a while. So to me, that is less dramatic a change than structurally changing it by attaching columns and a porch roof and all of that on there. To me, I could deal with or accept a canvas awning over it. If it were, probably in this case, round, it could be quarter round, whatever you want to call it, quarter sphere, I guess that's what that is. I could accept that. I wouldn't do it over the windows, but I could over the door because it's not considered to be permanent. You just screw it in and then you take it off.
Right.
Frankly, they'll build the frame, put the canvas to it, and then when you have to replace the canvas, they'll take the frame off and take it off site, put the canvas, cut it to match that, and they'll bring the whole thing back and reassemble it. I could deal with the canvas.
That would address the issue of rain. Aesthetically, it's a little bit different from what you're proposing. Do you think that would be a compromise you could accept?
If you recall.
Yes. We can certainly look at a canvas option. I understand where you're coming from, certainly, with the period of the house. And there were several options that I saw. So perhaps
you may have to be
we'll
back.
just, maybe we should resubmit, maybe when we get to that point, what you would like to see, that we realize we can have something, but we'll resubmit some options and then you can see what you like. Okay.
And one thing, if I might add, I don't know if you understood me the last time we met, but one of my biggest problems with the front windows you were proposing with those awnings was the roundness of them and how I thought that style didn't go with your vernacular house either.
That's why we took it off.
I think
so that's why I was confused.
I appreciate it, but I think the plainer canopy you can.
A shed?
Plainer you can
So
make.
you're looking more like a shed-style canopy?
Shed style?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
Is the shed style going to look okay to you all within that gable?
I think so.
Yes, shed would be fine.
So, can
We'll just
can
resubmit
we-
that at a later date because that'll be one of the last things we do.
or if you
So
feel
officially, we're
comfortable-
tabling this request,
That part of it.
That part.
that part.
Or if you
I guess
want
we really did, as I hear you, you're denying the request for columns and the portico and inviting them to resubmit with a assuming we approve most, at least, of the other items, they can go to work and resubmit the awning over the door in the future.
So
Or
we
do
have
you-
to officially vote against the columns in the portico.
I would recommend that,
I
yes.
would make a motion that we not approve the portico as designed.
So we have a motion
Second.
to not approve and a second. Any more discussion on not approving the portico and columns as shown in the drawing?
Do we need to resubmit it, or if we just do what you're describing, is that okay?
I would resubmit it because fabric samples and stuff like that color, we want to see it on.
They might object to polka dots or something.
Yeah.
you know.
I would too, so I understand that objection.
And again, you know, we're trying to retain that historic character,
Okay.
which long-term, as I mentioned last time, adds value in historic districts. Historic districts' property values do increase. So, and aesthetically, you know, someday I'm going to like that mid-century ranch-style
I
house.
hope you like it when we finish.
I already like
I
it.
already like it, that's the thing.
I've lived in ranch houses. I do
too.
like them. So, okay. We've got a motion, second, no more discussion. All in favor of the motion to deny the columns and portico, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Let's go on to the next item.
Mr.
But
Chairman?
could I-
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to make sure that I clarify this, though. If I represent some type of a canopy, you will approve some type of a canopy, because our contract is contingent upon you approving this, or as of Monday, we don't have to close on the house. So I just want to make sure that you will accept a canopy, and I don't come back and everybody says, no, we can't have anything at all up on the front of it.
David, do we need a motion to that effect? Just for,
That would be okay. That would be good, that
I'd like
you
to.
will approve a canopy with the details to be
Well,
supplied.
let me propose I make a motion to approve a shed-type canopy over the front door with a drawing to follow for final approval at the appropriate time with fabric samples, dimensions, and a revised drawing to indicate the canopy you're talking about.
so a motion to approve a canopy with drawing to follow. Is there a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds.
A third.
Seconds.
Any more discussion on that? All in favor of approving the canopy as described?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next item on my list, anyway, is shingles, is that correct?
2 dormers.
No, adding
Dor-
2 dormers.
dormers. Okay, I'm sorry.
In front of the house.
Okay. Okay, let's take a look at the dormers on the front elevation.
Did you tell us that you're going to be finishing the attic? Is that the reason for the
There's
dormers?
already an apartment up there that, there's 500 square foot finished off currently.
That's right.
We're
But
going to
no-
raise up the back roof line, which is out the back side of the house, and gain about 300 square feet there, and then we wanted to get some light into it from the front, thus the reason for the dormers.
And Bill has dormers next door.
Well,
And then Bill has dormers next door that's.
in addition to the dormers, you're asking to kick out the back half of the gable roof to get another story, full story, is that right?
That's, to my understanding, that's already approved.
They approved to do
Yes.
that. It was just whether the front dormers were consistent, and she wanted the exact measurements of the front dormers, so we did that.
Okay.
Yes.
Should have showed up.
Well, back to the 2
The
dormers.
dormers? Yes.
Just move.
Okay. Any,
Take it.
was there a motion?
I thought you didn't.
No.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't
I'm
make
sorry.
motions, so.
I'm sorry.
Pay attention.
I'm sorry.
This is the liveliest meeting we've had in quite a while.
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the dormers as submitted.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion on that?
Mr. Chair, I question, part of that package is that it shows shutters. You're proposing shutters on the dormers and other locations throughout the building, and the building does not currently have shutters. Are
That
you
is
proposing?
correct. That is correct.
I think we need to make the shutters and the dormers 2 separate items
Okay.
regarding that, but we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
That's-
All in favor?
And now we're on discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it goes back to the idea that the shutters make it look more of that colonial interpretation rather than more of that 1945 interpretation. So that's why we're looking at the shutters and saying, maybe not have those if you had nice, just the nice, pretty, clean trim around it. That would probably work better for the style of the house as it was born, not trying to turn it into a different style.
And also, I think with the size of the house, shutters are going to cut down even more on the visual size of the house, of what you see visually. What do you want to say about that, Jim?
I'm opinionated. I mean, I'd rather come back to the shutters because there's other issues related to it. I'd like to go ahead and vote on the dormers if we could and
Well,
get that out of the way.
The motion was to vote on the,
Dormers.
as drawn. Wasn't that right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
David? As drawn includes shutters.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I would propose, well, maybe we need to go ahead and do the dormer, the shutters. I personally would not approve the shutters. If you look at the kitchen, those two little shutters there, if you ever close them, would never meet. If you look at the three proposed windows where the garage door is now, you close those shutters, they would never meet. And that's just, it always looks odd. It always looks, to me,
Look at the house right across the street, the yellow framed house, triples, shutters on it, they never meet.
whatever they did wrong is not something I would want to promote with you. I think doing that is always a mistake. I would not recommend shutters on the house. I would recommend we re-offer the amendment, the motion to just to do the shutters, the dormers without the shutters, and then add the shutters in there.
David, what do we need to, how do we need to?
I guess in effect, Jim has moved to amend the original motion, which is to prove it without the shutters. Original motion was as submitted, which has shutters. So he's asking for an amendment.
Okay, to move along, I'll amend the original motion to approve the dormers without the shutters at this point.
Second.
That works.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the dormers without shutters. And at the dimensions as drawn? Okay, any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
And the motion carries. Okay. The next item then is to consider shutters on the house as a whole, the whole front, or just on the dormers?
I would say all the shutters as presented on the rendering that he's presented.
Okay.
Well,
Any
I'd like-
discussion? Go.
Well, one discussion, let's go back to looking at the original, the house as it sits today. Of course, okay, I see, you're not asking for shutters on those two windows next to the front door because they wouldn't fit.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So on the front of the house that sticks out toward the sidewalk, it's just the two kitchen windows. Then when you step back, it's the three windows proposed to infill the garage door opening.
That's correct.
And then the two on the two dormers.
That's correct.
Yeah, you can make
Yeah, go ahead.
So confused. I'd
The,
like to make a motion that you not put the shutters, because I think it takes away, but that you do keep, if you look around your windows, you've got a real pretty trim that goes around
There's going
them.
to be trim around all the
And
windows.
just do that real pretty trim around all of them and keep it consistent, and don't even put the money into into those shutters.
so we have a motion to not
Not install
approve.
Do the trim.
Not install shutters. And is there a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second to not include the shutters or to approve the windows without shutters.
Yes.
Yes.
And any more discussion on that?
Well, the only discussion I would do, Mr. Chair, is I must admit, on the front of the house, they have 3 windows with shutters and 2 without does look off balance to me.
Any more comments on that? Okay.
Well, and just the other thing is that Jim has said is shutters initially were pieces of board that could be cut, that could be shut for bad weather. So they should always be in proportion to the size of the window.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion to approve the windows without shutters or to not allow the shutters, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion carries to approve without shutters.
Mr. Chair, the next item is to replace the existing roof shingles with architectural shingles.
Yes. Any comment about that? Anyone?
I make a motion to approve the shingles.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to replace shingles with architectural shingles is approved. Next item.
The next item is closing in the existing garage for an office. Is that just the activity you want? That's not, the next item says replace the garage door with 3 windows.
It's
You're using it as an office.
all the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
So really, I think turning it into an office is a non-issue.
Right,
We
it's-
don't care how you use it.
No, and that wasn't.
So the next item would be replacing the garage door with 3 windows.
Correct.
Yes. And they would be similar windows to those on the front of the house, so they would match. It would be 3
That'd be
sashes.
Yes.
I think that's fine. You don't think?
Mr. Chair, from an architectural perspective, I think the opening of the garage door for the vehicle to go in there is an important feature of the house as it was originally designed, and I would recommend that they instead install in the same opening of the garage door, like patio doors or French doors that would fill the opening in that would still honor the original vehicle door entrance.
That'd be great. That would be a nice
That's a
design.
good idea.
It's actually the same motion I'd like to make on the breezeway, is that you respect the opening and the fact that it was a breezeway, that you just fill it in with wood and glass doors, like a patio with a single pane of glass or a French door that has multiple panes, like your windows. You fill it in and it respects the opening that the car used to go through or that you used to walk through. But right now, we're talking about the 3 windows as proposed for the garage door opening. But
So
I-
you're wanting a set of French doors going into the breezeway area where there's a window being proposed?
Well, eventually we'll come to that issue, but just trying to stay
They're all
on
one.
task. They were talking about the garage door. Say it's 7 feet tall and 9 feet wide, which is a typical single door. I would keep that opening and then just install French doors or
Makes sense.
single pane, what they call patio doors in
Right,
there.
and
You
that's
get all
a
the
lot.
light you want, and you maintain the original opening. You're all, yes.
Any other comments, anyone? Had you considered anything like that originally?
I'm not going to do that.
Pardon me?
I'm not going to do that. That is going to become an office. That changes the whole flow of how it can be set up on the inside. It just will not work for our purposes.
Uh-huh. How big is the garage?
It's 11 foot wide by 23 feet deep, but it's going to have a wall in between. There's going to be a utility room on the backside of
On
it.
the backside? So the front room will be the office?
11 by 13.
11 by 13 foot office, and
Yes.
access would be from the side, is that correct?
Inside, what is currently the breezeway, access will be from inside, yes.
Okay.
So is that a security issue that you're
Yes, as
saying
much as
that?
anything. I mean, there was just a robbery there, and that's, some of the windows and that kind of thing. It's going to be real difficult. Like I said, somebody just broke into while we have it under contract, so that's been a little bit disconcerting. So no, I don't want the access. Yes, it is a
Is there
security
some,
issue.
there's some
Yes.
other style or alternative to that? I know that we've looked at a lot of different garage doors over the years that had different styles of opening. You could have a garage door that raises or moves side to side, or
I mean, you could fix a pair of a garage door there and maintain the aesthetic that it was a car door.
That won't.
With windows,
Yeah.
a garage door with windows, or an appearance of a garage door with windows. I mean, it could be designed in such a way that it appeared to be, but actually be framed in and still have the appearance.
They don't appear to be, normal building windows. They just have like little strip of windows at the top, or it might look like a pair of doors that open, but it's not a,
Garage doors, you mean?
it won't look like a real window.
Yeah.
Is your concern that a garage door be able to be put back physically in that place if it were necessary?
Well, it's to
Because I
respect.
could make the windows, that width of a garage door if that's the concern, but the windows for our purposes, for security and everything, are gonna have to have the light as well as just the security part of it, given that it's just been broken into.
Well, also, we're raising the floor in that to the same elevation as the
Right.
house floor, so that can never be a garage again.
Right.
But I think that's not so important to us, that it be able to become a garage again, but that it retain that historic appearance of a single-family house with a single-car garage, which is, again, in that vernacular style. That's so. And so when we look at the historic district, and we have lots of houses in the district, and we have to evaluate them, we want to be consistent in how we treat them. And I understand that you just purchased it, and I'm sure that you probably weren't real familiar with the guidelines for the historic district, so I appreciate that. So we're just trying to work our way through these questions. And sometimes they're sticky and difficult. And
Well, we understood last time when we presented it, the deal was, so we didn't keep coming back and forth. You agreed with the windows per se, it was just whether they were vinyl or not.
yeah,
So it never was an issue with these windows as they were, or, we wouldn't be back here again like we are.
Right.
But that was already
You're right about
addressed
that.
in the first meeting.
okay.
That's not a problem. We stand corrected.
I do have to go. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but I do have to leave, so I'll leave that in your capable hands.
And in essence.
So
because
Jeff,
that-
if I understand the reasoning that you don't want to just replace the garage door, is you're raising the floor level inside the
Well, that's not
room?
the only reason, it's just functionality from where her desk is going to sit. You got doors that are swinging in, then the room is not functional for us at all.
Right.
And I don't want to know that I'm on one end of the house and somebody can have that many doors that they can access me from another, given where it's located.
And if we're understanding correctly, this is really actually a moot point because this was already determined last time.
Right,
right.
I mean,
So we should probably just
So,
move forward.
Yes.
I
move-
don't recall specifically, you guys, if you recall that's what happened, or if we have, I don't have any minutes transcribed yet, but I don't recall whether it was or not. I
Yeah.
really don't, I
Okay.
can't speak to that, I'm sorry.
right, I just know before we left, we asked what are the list of things that we need to make sure we address when we come back, because
Yeah.
this was our last time period that we had, and it was whether or not they could be vinyl or not, but not whether or not the windows would be totally taken out as they were presented.
Yeah.
Just
That
out
was-
of curiosity, what are you going to do with the driveway? Put landscape it?
It's going to be cut back, and there will be landscaping across all the front of
And
the
then
house. And
you had
that's it.
asked that we explain that the drive would come in from the right side and go all the way to the back of the house now. So it's,
But that's still staying there. That's just going to
May
be
or
for
may
company
not.
to park in or something.
we can leave it or we can,
Well, actually,
Well-
based on the list, if we're not talking about the garage door with the windows, and over there on the left, we can't even see that. So we don't really need to address number 8, do we? And then number 9, as long as it doesn't affect the front, whatever they put way back there that we can't see, that's really their business. So the only thing is number 10, am I correct, that we just look at the closing in the breezeway? And in that respect, maybe I'm an interior designer, so I would want to look at your floor plan.
Understood.
Having in that particular area where the breezeway was, a doorway there could possibly be a benefit.
And we did
And so that
initially-
suggestion from Jim
Right.
would be actually a good thing to think about and consider, because it would reflect that understanding of that opening, but it
Right.
also might be a benefit to the interior of the house. And since I haven't seen your floor plan, I don't know that.
Right.
But
It had
am I correct
initially-
in how I'm looking at the numbers there?
I think so.
Okay.
It had initially been a door, but that's going to be a dining room at this point, which doesn't hinder whether it's a door necessarily. But if you're going to landscape in front of it,
It might
you've got
not.
a door just coming out in the middle of the air, where before it had always been windows all the way through, or you're just going to step out into
Right.
air. And there is a door on the back of the house, which, like I said, is not an issue for you into that dining space. But I didn't want that many doors where
Yeah.
people could get into that house that many different ways. Because, like I said, considering what just happened, there's just too many accesses to it for my comfort.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Motion on the windows for the,
Can we just have a motion and say, let's just go for 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 here, that, let it roll?
You know what, I'm okay with this, and the reason, let me tell you why I'm okay with this. They're spending a lot of money
Yeah.
to get this
To
done.
make it better.
They don't have to be in the historic zone. They can move somewhere else, and we need to be cognizant of that.
Balance.
And we got to have a balance. I think they've gone overboard to accommodate us, but we've got to be kind of understanding, because we don't want to run people away from this historic zone
No,
as
but
well.
we do want to try to give them
Yeah,
advice.
exactly. I agree with that part, but also we've got to be, there's got to be a leeway there.
I really think that the garage part is, it depends, when you have a degree in historic preservation, you have to think that way too, but you also have to have balance. Someday, maybe in 100 years, people will really get into garages, you know, and how they evolved and the importance of them. I don't think right now we wouldn't put that as a primary issue right now, would we?
No.
No.
And so as long as you get functionality of the back of your house, and what you're doing is you're not really you're changing that, but you still have the remnants. I mean, you're going to make those windows
It's
about the
still gonna-
same
gable's
size and
gonna
all of
remain the
that.
same.
So
Well, the gable's
every-
actually getting larger.
Right,
than-
I mean,
think-
it's getting larger, but I mean, it's still the,
I think I just want a second for my number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 approval, okay?
second.
Actually, number 6
Oh,
was
did I count it in?
not
Well, we just
really matter.
eliminated that.
6
There was no need for that.
Okay.
Six
There's
did-
no need for 6. but-
Okay, 7, 8, 9, 10, I stand corrected.
So the motion is to approve replacing the garage door with 3 windows. Add 3 windows to the left side of the garage, you mean on
On the north side of the house
On
that
the north
faces
side.
Bill Jakes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't
The
even think we
duplicate
see that
windows of
far.
what's in the
Yeah,
front.
you can.
Oh, you can? Just,
And then add an attached garage behind the existing garage, and to enclose the breezeway. I'm not sure I understand this sentence, closing in the breezeway and roof.
We're adding,
And-
we're raising that gable that's on the garage is coming on up. It will be no higher than the main ridge line of the house, but the gable will be enlarging to
Yeah.
incorporate covering that breezeway. Because that's actually, I don't think that garage was original to the house. If you look at how the concrete and everything was poured, it was done at a separate time, and all there is just a wall joining the
Yeah.
garage with the house, with a doorway through it to a patio.
So in other words, are you saying that the gable would change?
No, it'll just go up a little higher and come back down
So
to
you're going to have to put
incorporate
a whole
covering that
new
whole
roof
breezeway.
on the garage?
Yeah, well, the garage is getting a new roof anyway.
I see,
so.
okay.
yeah.
All right, so the motion is again to replace the garage door with 3 windows that would match those windows on the front of the house. Add 3 windows on the side of the garage, comparable to those 3 with 3 triple sort of sash.
Exactly the same thing.
Add an attached garage behind the existing garage, close in the breezeway and roof and remodel it into, we don't care what you do inside. And so that would raise the roof line. and central heat and air, which is not really relevant to us either. So that's the motion. Is there and who was the motion? Was from Deborah?
And I second.
Second. Any more discussion on that?
I don't think so.
We're done.
I would just add that, I think that some of Jim's points were relevant in that,
Yes.
when you do change the appearance of a garage, that's an important change. And again, in the historic district, we do have guidelines that we are bound by, not just our opinions, and that there are guidelines
Yeah.
that do.
Just out of
Discuss these
curiosity,
things. Yeah.
why is that the only house in that block on Manny that's in the historic district? There's not another one on the block there. They all face College Street.
Everybody tells us it's not even in the historic district, but
The,
we just went with it.
actually, there are 2 National Register districts in Murfreesboro. One is East Main Street, the other one is Manny Avenue, National Register districts. That is, those are districts on the National Register of Historic Places. However, the city has only created one city historic district, and that is the East Main Street Historic District. And I believe that the buildings on College are all.
They are. That's why I was just wondering, that's the only house on that block
And
that's in the historic district.
I'm not familiar with the history of when the district was established, but it sort of jogs here and there, and it comes halfway between Manny and College.
And that triplex
Is that right?
is
Halfway
actually-
between College and Lytle, that is, I mean to say. And in some places, it goes all the way to Lytle, but I don't know what the history is of that particular block. So, yeah, and backing up, we need to vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries.
Okay.
And that's the last of your proposals, and we'll look forward to
As
working
long
with
as
you.
I didn't hear anything addressing the gas lights. Is that an issue on either side of the front porch?
No,
Okay,
that wasn't in there.
okay.
But thank you for
Yes.
trying to work with us and understanding what our job is. And good luck. It's going to be exciting, I think.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It's going to look really good.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we want to be invited, you know.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. Any other business?
Oh, was that in the?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.